On this weekly injection, we will talk about reverbs. What is a reverb? Whenever you have a sound source, the sound will travel outward, and then when it hits walls, it will bounce back. A reverb is the combination of all these sources coming back to your ears. This will create a tail to the sound, which will vary in tone and length according to the size and type of space. When a sound hits the wall, it will come back, but if the wall is made of concrete, it will have a certain sound and it will reflect more. But if there are, say, textiles on the wall, then it will sound different. If the wall is a library, it will sound a lot different again. Our ears are very sensitive to reverb, and they use reverb to understand where sounds are and where they're coming from. There are two main aspects to reverbs: early reflections and tail. Early reflection is the sound coming straight back before everything else, and it's going to be our first clue on how big the room is. The tail is the combination of reflections going back and forth between walls, and they take a little longer to decay, and that will come a little bit later. You can experiment with the balance between early reflections and tail to determine what kind of ambience you are portraying in the mix. For example, if you have a jazz tune, you might want to simulate that you are in a jazz club. So you will probably have a little bit of early reflections, and your tail will be, I don't know, maybe 1 second, 1 second, 0.5 long, depending on the size of the simulated club. But if you want to simulate somebody singing in a church, for example, then you wouldn't have too many early reflections because the walls are too distant anyway. So it's going to be more about the tail, which will be a lot longer. It could be 2, 3, 4 seconds. With reverbs, you want to simulate an ambience. Make your reverbs personal. If you just use a generic reverb and put it there on the track, it's gonna probably sound a little bit boring. So what I invite you to do is to experiment with different plugins after the reverb. You can use a chorus, you can use a phaser, you can use a saturation, you can use a spatializers to make it even wider. You can put a little bit of delay on it. You can play with the pan and decide how wide it is. For example, if it's on vocals, you might want to embrace the vocals a little bit better in the mono, and maybe add a second one that can tell a different story on the stereo. So I think that the most interesting part about reverbs is that you can be creative with them rather than being just predictable, so that you can make your sound more personal and interesting. Have you got any particular trick that you use on reverbs? Let us know in the comments here below. And if you really want to improve on your mixing skills, check out the official guide to mixing, our video course in 24 episodes where we show you exactly the techniques that we use. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.